part 3 of our recording guide. We've gone over the first 2 parts, the first one being what we need to record, just the basics equipment, and part 2 is talking about what song we're going to do, how we're going to kind of get it into our heads. And part 3 is really taking all of these ideas and really putting them in motion, getting out your guitar, getting out your piano, and start putting together these ideas so that we can make a proper cover or remix or whatever have you. So if you guys are following along, we're going to take Song of Storms, which we talked about last time, and we've already listened to the song. We know that it has just about 2 sections, and we're going to start coming up with some ideas. This video is going to be a lot more of just staring at me playing guitar and coming up with ideas, so I'm going to have to cut out a little bit of some of these parts that might take you a little longer or a little less time than it's taking me. The most important thing here is find your voice, your sound, and think up the best possible end product in your mind. And as long as you practice your chops, you're going to know how to put that from your mind onto musical sound waves. So what we're going to do is we're going to quickly grab a guitar, I'm going to plug into Guitar Rig, and we're going to go over just some ideas of these riffs. Remember that if you know the chords to your song and you have them written out, then you can probably save yourself a lot of time. If you don't have the music theory down per se, you're gonna probably want to have just some visual ideas of how to play the scales and sort of play the right notes that are falling into place with our song. For me, Song of Storms is in D minor, so I'm going to be playing a lot of things that revolve around the notes like F natural and D minor, and I'll be playing the song in drop D. So let's grab a guitar and let's hop to it. One of the most important tools to a musician is a metronome. It's extremely important because if you don't use a metronome, not only will you not play in time and synchronize with your drummer, with your other musicians and stuff, but you won't be able to play parts that are a little faster or harder because you're just trying to rush things. What I like to do sometimes is have the metronome playing so I can get a good sense of where I am in a song, especially where I am with a riff. Sometimes I write riffs that are too hard for me to actually play perfectly, so it'll take a lot of practice before we nail it. I set mine to 140 BPM at 3/4 time. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm still making mistakes, but I'm not recording. So that's a good idea for how I want to start the song. Something that's very echoey. I think I'm going to like that for the beginning of the song. And then I want to bust into something a little more, robust and driven. I'm going to use my metal tone here for something a little more rhythmic. And I want to come up with something that's matching the drive and the walkingness of the song. Something that hits, Most covers I've seen and most of the original song is just the basic power chords. So, but the emotion that gets evoked when I'm hearing this isn't the same. It feels very straight and very it's very powerful and hammery. But when I'm in the rain, I feel like, I'm walking through something. I want to convey something that has a little more nitpickiness. So I'm going to come up with a riff that sounds a little more, something that fits a rainfall. Something that's sad, but has a little more emotion and detail to it. Just something that feels like me. What I'm going to do basically here is match the power chords on the lowest notes so that we still have the proper form of the song, but I'm going to manipulate the power chords to something a little bit broader, more expanded, or make up a riff that sort of fits in this each chord. Now remember, the first one's a minor, but if I play something like that, a more expanded chord for the second chord, maybe we'll get a little more nice transition. So if you listen to a lot of Ibanez sevenfold, you'll hear a lot of these kind of things, like so the point being, we got to figure out how to match the same chords and the bass line maybe, so that we have something tight, but we don't want to, exclude out all these bigger chords. The most important thing to note here is how I'm taking these normally very simplistic sort of chord progressions and adding my own flair. Sometimes it'll be as simple as whatever sounds good, and record your riffs so you don't forget them. Very important. I think I like that, so it's really important to just play these songs and come up with the ideas without cluttering yourself with the recorder and stuff. Take your time, especially if you're doing the level up challenge right now, the contest and sort of self-challenge that I'm running. You want to improve, you gotta take each section of what you do and see how we can get it even better. And I think that songwriting and arranging and composing these riffs, the most important thing you can do is just, remember you're a guitar player or a piano player, or whatever. You want to come up with something that's you, and you don't want to, rush into some of these things and make it generic. You want it to be yours. One of the last things I kind of want to acknowledge is, as we're coming up with ideas for these songs, I do want to include a guitar solo, just because it's kind of a staple to the sort of styles that I listen to, heavy metal and progressive rock and classic rock and stuff. So when coming up with guitar solos, give yourself a little bit of space. Come up with a very nice sort of playing field for your background chords. I decided that in my arrangement I'm going to include the songs Ballad of the Goddesses from Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. And while doing so, I'm going to have a bit of a transition to the guitar solo, and I'm going to just make 4 chords that stay in the key of D. So we're going to start with we're going to have a transition to the guitar solo, and what I'm going to do there is just play kind of 4 chords that fit into the scale, and I'm not going to explain how to guitar solo on top of something, because again, that's basically a lesson. But when you pick out your chords, try to find notes in the chord. If you're playing something like this, we can find a lot of really cool solos inside there. So I'm going to just quickly play for you what I'm going to have in mind. Again, this is all just stuff from my head. We haven't touched Reaper yet. So I like to record that part and then just solo on top of it without recording, and sort of build upon ideas. So, and as I do that, I kind of think about like how I want to start, how I want to end, maybe certain licks or like little melodies that I can put in. When you play a guitar solo or any solo, I think of it like you're making a little song that like tells people about the whole song. So. So I think that's going to work out. That's the solo I have right now, and most of the notes I'm working in there are just based on connecting scales together. And it's not always going to come so naturally. That took me maybe 200 playthroughs or so before I was happy, and I still haven't recorded it for the video as of this video. So you know, keep in mind that if you're having trouble, try listening to it and just noodling on top. If you can't find the right notes that fit and you're picking dissonant notes, just think about the chords that you're playing. If we simplify that, there's your notes. And then we can pick, you know, a C major scale, and then the bottom line here is just think about the chords that you're kind of playing with. And I can't give you a guitar lesson within a mixing and recording guide, but I can tell you that if you're looking for a good guitar solo, just think about the chords that you're playing, think about the songs that you're playing. A lot of the time people like to just throw in songs from the same game into the solo. And while it might seem like a cop-out, it'll still work because a lot of the times people compose things by using parts of other songs. Leitmotifs is the word. So don't shy away from doing it if you really can't come up with anything, and sometimes it might just be what your solo needs. Now that we've covered how to pick a song, what kind of song we kind of want it to be, the feel of the song, and how we're going to make a riff that matches the feel, and learning the song and the solo, basically we're ready to start recording our song into a DAW, or a digital audio workstation. What you want to do once you have all these parts together is kind of up to you, but I want to talk about how we're going to set this up in our project file. We're going to create a project using Kako's Reaper, my DAW of choice. I recommend it because it has a free evaluation version, so anyone can check it out. Of course, you can use Cubase, Studio One, Pro Tools, Logic, you know, any of those kind of softwares. I've had good experience either seeing people use them or using them myself for a little bit. So definitely check those out. What we're going to want to work on is putting these guitar riffs and ideas, just the gist of them, into our recorder so that we can come up with more ideas, and we can start writing programmed drums. We can put in a rough sketch of how our guitars are going to sound, and you know, then we can add bass, leads, and mix this thing.